kind of interesting if you think about it. It's kind of a bit of a contradiction, right? The public markets value you immediately on cash flow, and by doing so, limit your future capacity to invest. So forget everything you read in the financial books about discounted cash flow valuations and all that. At the end of the day, Wall Street is 2 quarters ahead, and that's it. And so I'm serious when I say we really thought that following the example of Red Hat, which was a much bigger company, and the troubles they were going through in terms of their capacity to invest and their communication to Wall Street, it was clear that going public would mean raising money we could never invest. That makes no sense. No liquidity, limited capacity to invest, a lot of hassles because of Starbucks. It's difficult. It's still there. It's still a great option. It's still the more prestigious option, but there were other options. An M&A process with Red Hat gave us that, in theory, that capacity to invest up front, and that was very attractive from a pure business standpoint. So we had decided this is probably, actually it didn't go exactly like that in our case, not that it's relevant in terms of how the decision to sell was made. The decision to sell in our case came after an incoming request. So there was first we had continuously people wanted, knocking on the door saying, are you interested in selling, etc. Until the point it got really serious, meaning the interest seemed legit, and the numbers being thrown around seemed interesting enough. Until that point, none of the process really got engaged. But my 5-second really wisdom about the sales process is get a good banker. In other words, get people around you that know what they're doing. Specifically, if like me, you're a clown. It helps. The other thing I found is it's an art. Selling a company is more an art than a science, at least from my experience, and I'm sure every experience is different in this case. But from what I've seen, it's a very chaotic process. We tend to idealize the business world as very rational, and decisions will be taken for the right reasons after a long, thinking processes, and every decision will be optimized. When in fact, once you get to the buying decisions and to the amount of money that usually gets on the table, emotions gets in, individuals get in, and the process is stochastic. It's random. It's a little bit all over the place. And managing the people involved in that process, saying the right things at the right time, holding your card, etc. Don't be a newbie. Don't let your VC be a newbie. If your VC has experience selling the company, that's good. In fact, it's our VC. We were with Matrix Partners out of Boston. David Skok was the lead investor out of Matrix, and David brought in our case, Jeffers Broadview, small boutique firm out of Boston. At first I thought, why am I gonna give, between 1 and 2 points to some guy of the value of my company just because he showed up to be in the middle. For me it was they're in the middle, they're superfluous. Not at all. Trust me. These people earn their keep. They really do. If one sell, obviously, if one sell is difficult, these guys do it all the time. In fact, they do it in parallel because one of every 4 sell results in actual cash changing hand. One of every 4 attempts to sell, in their case, results in cash changing hands. So they're pros. That's what they do, and seeing them in action, I couldn't do that very frankly. So we brought a banker. The other theoretical advantage of a banker, well, there's a few that are real and some that not so real. The few that are real is, again, they know what they're doing, and they can act as a buffer for you. A banker can act as a buffer for you. So when you need to tell F you to the party in front, which happens a lot of time, but when you need to tell the hard line, these guys, that's what they do for you. So you can pretend you're a good guy and you can continue smiling. Very convenient. What was that in American Dreams? Did you guys see American Dreams where he explains what an agent is? An agent is somebody who is an asshole for you. So you can pretend you're nice. It's exactly that. That's very effective. The thing that I found to not be so true and was shown as one of the advantages is, in theory, the banker is there to help management stay focused on the business. You know, that sounds nice on paper, that a banker is going to help you, you know, continue with the day-to-day operations. Not that I did day-to-day at my company. I did product strategy and PR. But trust me, when a sale comes along, there's nothing else on your mind. So, you know, it's just more people in the soup as opposed to you going and calling them every week. And so, how's the sale going this week? That's not exactly the way it works. So we had received, actually, let me rewind a little bit of the history. I can't disclose a lot of things, but I can give you some timelines, I'm sure, and I'm sure it will be helpful, is the point. We had received a serious interest in about September last year. We had retained a banker within 2 weeks. First things done. Negotiated the retainer. It's pricey, but it's worth it. As I said, this is what your VCs can do for you. Bring in a good banker. Be careful of a VC that, you know, bring a banker is what I'm saying. By October we had the banker, and really by last year, this year, 1 year ago last year, so January, the thing was in full swing. And taking it in full swing went really fast. Once they had an offer, obviously then they started calling the other quote-unquote potentials, seeing if there's interest or not. And it went extremely fast from there. And that's really pretty much it on how it happened, and that I can disclose. Let me see, what else can I talk about on the process of selling? Yeah, let me talk about one thing that I've seen on both sides. It's very difficult to keep perspective through the process. In some cases, you have dominant personalities that influence the process a lot, and that's why, by the way, a banker is helpful. At least a banker who understands that game and how to manage egos involved and things like that. That's helpful, and you have to be very careful with that. I've seen in many cases a lack of, you know, it's easy to lose perspective because there's a lot of money involved, because you can get too pregnant with the deal. Getting pregnant with the deal means you get very emotional and you get very involved, and not so emotional, but you want this to happen. You're pregnant with it. And people will smell that on you, obviously, and that's never good. That's also why a banker will help, and that's one of the, you know, with the stochasticity of the process. That's really the other thing that I've noticed, you know, happening. Again, that lack of perspective. And really, since I have not much more to say, I'm not going to say much more. And respect your time. Take your questions around that, and maybe that's a better use of your time. Yes?
Can you say a little bit about how the process got started at the very beginning? Did you call up Red Hat and say you want to buy us, or did they approach you? Or?
So I described this very briefly, without putting names on who did what. Company called us. You know, companies were calling us regularly to check on an acquisition. At some point, it went above a certain threshold of seriousness. First thing we did is seriously debate IPO versus versus selling. Our company was in a good position, so you know those options were available, and then really an auction, a limited auction, in the sense that we sent to a limited set of in the time frame of November, December, we sent to a limited set of companies, you know, a letter saying, or we actually called them through the banker, would you be interested? This is where the banker really helps, because the banker deals on a daily basis with his counterparts of those companies. Number two, you know, so that was the first step. Number two, some companies did not express interest at all. So obviously they're out of the next round. The next round was really a deeper conversations with all those parties, leading to a first round of bidding at the table. And after the first round of bidding, it got interesting. I can't get into details. And a few companies stayed in at the table, and a few folded. And that's really how the back and forth went.